This is session 1, video 2. Right now, we are going to talk a little bit about value. We talked a little bit about it in the previous video. Um, Value is the fundamental objective of marketing. As we discussed in the last video, marketing is about both providing value and receiving value. And that overall concept is called the value proposition. Um, if you take a look at the special topics discussion for this week, I talked to you a little bit about the ways in which Starbucks provides me value as a customer. And I ask you to think of a brand that you really like and think about all the ways in which that brand provides you with value. We're going to talk a little bit more about value proposition and how it fits into marketing over the next few slides. Marketing management, or what marketers do, we've been talking about marketing as an abstract concept. What marketing management does, or what marketers do, is develop marketing strategies by doing things like choosing target markets. Who is it that a company is going to go after in terms of the customers it wants to focus on, and how are they going to build those really profitable and important relationships with those individual consumers. It's about finding the right people, attracting them to your product, your brand, and your company. It's about keeping them by keeping them satisfied and making sure that you're continually meeting their ever-changing needs. And ultimately, it's about growing those number of customers over time so that your company can in turn grow as well and provide increasing value to the organization and to those consumers. When it comes to developing winning marketing strategies, there's really two main fundamental questions that need to be asked. What customers are we going to serve? Who is going to be our target market? And the answer for every single company is never everyone. No company in their right mind should ever say our target market is every human being on the planet. There is no company big enough and with a wide enough array of products and services that can legitimately say we're going after everyone. Even companies like Coca-Cola and Apple and Google don't have the resources that it would take to go after every single consumer in the marketplace. Even those mega companies, the biggest companies in the world, they still have to narrow down the marketplace into those specific target markets that they're going to go after. We're actually going to spend a whole lot of time in a couple of weeks talking about market segmentation and target marketing. We're going to talk a little bit about it here, but we'll go into a lot more detail in a few weeks. And the second question that marketers need to ask themselves in terms of developing a winning marketing strategy is how can we best serve these customers? What do we do really well? And how can we do that in a way that satisfies the needs and wants and demands of the customers that we're just deciding to focus on? That is ultimately called the value proposition. What value are we going to offer or propose to our customers so that we can derive value from them in return? We're going to talk a little bit more about that concept, the value proposition, over the next few slides. When it comes to choosing a target market, there's two concepts that we are just going to introduce here, and again, we'll talk about them a lot more in a few weeks. The first one is market segmentation, which involves dividing the market up into various groups of customers that have something in common. And as you'll learn in a few weeks, there's a bunch of ways you can divide up the marketplace. Some really simple ones are you can target female consumers versus male consumers, or you can target younger consumers versus older consumers, or you can target wealthier consumers compared to consumers who are more on a restricted budget. There's a whole bunch of different ways you can break up a larger market into smaller groups. And then once you've broken up that larger market into smaller groups, then you go through the process of picking which ones of those groups are you actually going to go after. And again, the answer is never everyone. But it certainly can be more than one. You can choose multiple market segments that you're going to go after and figure out a way that you're going to satisfy the consumers in that market and their common or shared needs in a way that's meaningful and provides value to the customer and provides value to you, the organization. So back to value proposition. The value proposition in its most simplistic definition are the benefits that are promised to be delivered to customers. It's what a product promises to do for you. And a lot of that is wrapped up in the product itself, but also in the brand. Brands are, in fact, a promise that a company is making to a customer that they can know and comfortably predict exactly what this product's going to do and how it's going to provide value. So value proposition are all the ways a customer benefits if they use or purchase the product. That is ultimately what value proposition means. Different brands in the marketplace, different brands of the same product, should be, they don't always, but they should be offering different value propositions. If one brand offers the exact same value proposition as another brand, then how should the consumers ever go about making a decision about which of those two brands they should purchase? The best kind of marketing strategy is when you as a company have a unique value proposition that separates you from all of your competition, a value proposition that's valued and desired by your customers. It's very clearly communicated and shared in terms of being valuable by the customers that you're trying to focus on. So over the course of the past about 150 years since basically industrialization, marketing has gone through a series of what they call marketing orientations. So these are fundamental core strategies that have driven marketing decisions within organizations. And there's 5 of them here that we're going to go over very, very briefly. The first is the production concept, where the focus of most organizations during this period of time, during this particular phase, was on becoming more and more efficient in terms of their production practices, and therefore driving down the costs of goods and making them more affordable to consumers. So the emphasis on in those kinds of organizations at that particular time was, how do we improve our production processes to drive down the price of our products so that we can sell more of these products to consumers across the marketplace. After a while, when companies experienced a fairly high level of efficiency through things like assembly lines and manufacturing processes, they moved on to what was called the product concept, meaning that the focus of the company was on delivering good products, and good products would sell themselves. They didn't really have to worry about figuring out who the customer was and what they wanted. They were going to make whatever product they wanted, and customers would come and buy it. And a perfect example of this is actually Henry Ford. There was a famous quote, Henry Ford, the founder of Ford Motor Company, he once was asked about whether or not consumers, people who were buying his Fords when automobiles were just coming onto the marketplace, whether people could buy them in different colors. And he said, yes, people can buy Ford motor vehicles in any color they want as long as that color is black. Ford was of the belief that he just had to make the product and the product would sell itself, and he didn't have to worry about what customers wanted in terms of what color or what features in the automobile. He thought the automobile, the product itself, was what was important, and customers would come to value the product for what it was. The next phase in the timeline of marketing orientations is the selling concept. This is when companies started to realize that in order to really drive sales, they needed to get people out there connecting the product with the consumer, selling the product to consumer, convincing consumers that this product was something that they needed, that was going to improve their overall quality of life. And so out there, communicating and sharing information with customers, and with the ultimate goal of selling the product. The next phase on the timeline is the marketing concept orientation, focusing not just on selling, but on that incredibly important relationship, both the giving and the receiving of value when it comes to marketing transactions and consumer transactions. The marketing concept is about taking a good hard look at the consumer, what they want and what they need, and then backing up and designing your products to actually meet those needs. So rather than designing the product first and then finding a market, the marketing concept suggests you find the market first or find the consumer first, and then you build the product around their specific and unique needs. And the last one on this timeline, even though we are still really in the marketing concept phase of the orientations, we're also seeing an increased emphasis on societal marketing and the impact that marketing and consumer behavior has on society as a whole, from an environmental perspective, from a societal value and cultural perspective. And consumers, especially younger consumers, are increasingly aware that businesses and products and brands and consumers can have a very significant impact on the world around us. And so they're starting to take those factors into consideration when they're making consumer decisions. So when we look at all of these various orientations, there's a couple of examples here in the slide. What we're really talking about is the focal point of the organization. What is their primary driver of their thought process? And you can see from the two examples here, the selling concept focuses on the factory, the products, and pushing those products to consumers, and then ultimately receiving in return profits through sales and volume. The marketing concept, which is the one we're focusing on because we're in it right now, focuses on the market first, the consumers first, figuring out what they need, developing a marketing strategy or marketing program to meet those needs, and ultimately gaining profit through customer satisfaction. So we talked a little bit about societal marketing already. We're going to spend a whole session, I believe in session 3 or 4, I'm not sure, about talking about sort of the ethical and societal and sustainable marketing practices that are really starting to become much more prominent and much more of an influencer on consumer buyer behavior. Customers today are more concerned. They want to do business with those companies that are good corporate citizens, that are taking into account things like the environment and pollution and air quality and human rights and the way individuals and employees and customers are treated. We're going to spend a whole session talking about this very important concept, but keeping in mind that all of these things are important, but at the end of the day, they all have to still be geared towards helping an organization achieve profitability through those really important customer relationships. So this is another little graph that sort of talks about the balance between customers' wants and what they need as individuals, and balancing that with society and the needs of society in terms of a clean environment and the overall responsibility that corporations have for being good corporate citizens, and also the balance between company profitability. And all of those three things have to balance each other out, and they're equally important. One isn't paramount in importance to any other. They're all important, and they have to work sort of in harmony in order to advance everyone's goals and objectives for the organization. Stay tuned for video number 3 in just a moment.